Welcome to our deep dive into generative AI for legal services. It's a hot topic, lots of changes happening fast, so we'll try to break it down for you.
Yeah, it's moving so quickly. New AI models and tools are popping up all the time.
We'll cover the key players and the concepts so you can really wrap your head around how this technology is changing the legal landscape.
We're talking AI that can write contracts, come up with litigation strategies, even analyze evidence.
Right, it goes way beyond just, sorting through data.
Exactly.
So we're focusing on two main types of AI models. First up, large language models, LLMs for short.
These are trained on massive amounts of text data.
The foundation for lots of the AI tools we're seeing. And then, building on that, you have the generative AI models.
These are the ones that can actually create new content.
Contracts, legal briefs, even marketing materials. So, choosing between a proprietary and open source LLM is a big decision for anyone looking to use AI in legal work.
It really is. That's kind of like your first fork in the road.
So, how should someone decide which way to go?
Well, think of proprietary LLMs, like, say, ChatGPT or Claude, as ready-made solutions, like buying a suit off the rack.
Okay, I get it. Convenient.
Exactly. They're user-friendly, you get good support.
But there's a but coming. Right.
But you have less transparency and control over, well, how they were trained, what data they used.
So, what about open source LLMs? Where do they fit in?
Those are more like bespoke tailoring.
Yeah.
You need some technical know-how to work with them.
So you need to train them yourself.
Yeah, you need to train them on the specific data sets that are relevant to you.
More work up front, but more control in the end.
Exactly. You get that flexibility. So choosing the right path depends on your priorities.
Makes sense. So what are the real implications of choosing one over the other for, say, a law firm?
If a firm values ease of use, good support, they might go for a proprietary LLM.
And probably if they don't have a lot of tech expertise in-house, right?
Yeah, that's a big factor. But a firm that needs something highly specialized, something really tailored to their specific practice area,
And they have the in-house tech team to handle it.
then open source could be the way to go.
Interesting. So we hear a lot about these buzzwords, predictive AI, reasoning AI. How do those concepts actually play out in these models?
Okay, so predictive AI, that's really good at pattern recognition and content generation.
So finding connections in data.
Right. GPT-4o is a good example of that.
It's one we've heard a lot about.
It's multimodal, processes text, images, audio, video.
Wow, multi-talented AI. So is it good for specific tasks in law?
Absolutely. Drafting documents, summarizing depositions, things like that.
So anything that involves finding those patterns, those connections, but what are the limits of that approach?
Well, as good as it is at those tasks, it doesn't really think like a human. Reasoning AI tries to do that, mimic human thought processes.
So that's where O1 and O3 come in. Those are the models you mentioned earlier.
Right, they're designed for complex analysis.
What makes them stand out?
O1, which came out in September 2024, uses a chain of thought approach.
Chain of thought, so it's like breaking a problem down into smaller steps?
Yeah, exactly. And it reasons through each step to reach a conclusion.
Interesting. And O3, that was released in December.
Yeah, just a few months later.
How is it different?
It uses a private chain of thought, more sophisticated.
So it's better at those really intricate reasoning tasks.
It's really good at things like debugging code or, really deep legal analysis.
Has it been tested on, like, real-world problems?
Oh, yeah. It's actually aced some tests designed for, like, expert-level science knowledge and software engineering.
Wow, okay. So let's say, for example, I'm working on a patent infringement case, and it involves complex biotechnology. How could these different AI models be useful?
GPT-4o would be super fast at summarizing patents and court rulings. You get a broad overview very quickly.
Okay, so a good starting point.
Right. But then, to really dig into the technical details, analyze specific claims.
That's where you'd need the reasoning power of O1 or O3.
Exactly. So using them strategically together could be really powerful.
So you'd use different models for different stages of the process. Makes sense. But how much control do we really have when we start using these models for tasks that require human judgment? This is where we get into the idea of co-pilots versus agents.
That's a key distinction. Are we talking about AI as a helpful assistant or something that operates more on its own?
So what defines a co-pilot AI, and how are they being used in law right now?
Think of it like, that really efficient junior associate.
Okay.
Someone to support you, not take over.
So they're there to enhance our work, but we're still the ones in control.
Right, exactly.
What are some examples of how copilots are being used in law right now?
Well, you can use them to generate a first draft of a contract
Oh, that's helpful.
or summarize, tons of discovery documents.
Just saving a lot of time.
Yeah, ton of time. They can even, polish your writing.
Oh, interesting. Make it clearer, more concise.
Exactly. It's like having an extra set of hands, but very capable hands.
But the human lawyer, the human, is still the one ultimately responsible.
Of course, yeah. Always.
And that human oversight seems really important, especially in law.
Absolutely. The stakes are so high.
You can't just blindly trust an AI to get everything right.
No, not when it comes to legal advice or court filings. There's too much at risk.
What about when we need even more support from AI? That's where agents come in, right?
Right, exactly.
What makes them different from copilots?
Agents are designed for a greater degree of autonomy. They can often manage tasks end to end.
Wow, so they're handling entire tasks with minimal human intervention.
Sometimes, yeah.
What kind of tasks are we talking about here?
Think about things like client intake,
Okay.
running conflict checks, automating e-discovery.
So sifting through mountains of documents.
Yeah, exactly. Some agents can even draft entire legal documents based on client data.
That's incredible, but it also sounds a little, I don't know, unsettling.
It can be, yeah.
What are the potential downsides of relying so heavily on AI agents?
Well, the potential for errors is a big concern, especially in law, where mistakes can have serious consequences.
Right, right. You miss a deadline or file the wrong document, it can be a disaster.
Exactly. And then there's the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
What happens to the role of the lawyer if AI is taking on more and more tasks?
That's a big question.
It is. It's something we need to think about carefully.
Before we reach a point where AI is making decisions that we don't fully understand or control.
Right. It's a balancing act.
So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the practical side of things. How do we choose the right AI tool for our specific needs beyond just, the buzzwords?
Choosing the right tool, it's not just about performance metrics.
What else should we be considering?
Usability is huge.
Okay.
Integration with your existing systems, cost effectiveness, and of course, security and privacy. Those are essential.
So let's break those down a little bit. Usability. What does that mean in the context of AI tools?
Can non-technical staff use it effectively?
So not everyone needs a computer science degree.
Right. It needs to be intuitive.
Right. If your team can't figure out how to use the tool, it's not going to be very helpful.
Exactly. It's got to be something that makes their lives easier, not more complicated.
Makes sense. What about integration with existing systems?
That's critical. Can the AI tool connect with your practice management software?
Like Clio or My Case, those kinds of things?
Yeah. Or your legal research platforms?
Yeah.
Westlaw, LexisNexis.
You don't want to be jumping back and forth between different systems.
Right. You want it to be seamless.
It should fit into your existing workflow.
Exactly. And then there's cost. Is it actually worth the investment?
Right, because some of these tools can be pretty pricey, right?
They can be, yeah. But the pricing models vary.
So there are options out there for different budgets?
Yeah, there are free tiers, monthly subscriptions, all kinds of things. The key is to really weigh the value proposition against the cost.
So will it save you enough time, reduce errors enough to justify the expense?
Exactly. You have to look at the return on investment.
And then the big one, security and privacy.
As lawyers, that's paramount.
We have an ethical obligation to protect our clients' information.
Absolutely. So you have to understand how these tools handle that sensitive data. Where is it stored?
Who has access to it?
Right. Does it comply with all the regulations like GDPR?
These are all things you need to be asking.
They're non-negotiable.
So you need to have that checklist
Yeah,
before you even start looking at specific tools.
absolutely. Figure out your non-negotiables.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific tools. What are some of the most popular generative AI tools out there right now for lawyers?
ChatGPT 4.0 is one that's been getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, we've heard about that one. It's from OpenAI, right?
Right. It's a multimodal model, so it can handle different types of input.
Like what?
Text, audio, visual. It's really good at things like, summarizing meeting notes or drafting emails.
Okay, so those quick tasks where you need a fast turnaround.
Yeah, it's really fast. It can also do data analysis, text analysis.
Like in spreadsheets.
Yeah, it can handle those too.
All right.
Which can be useful for, tracking case details or financial records.
So it's pretty versatile.
It is, yeah. And they've also integrated O1 into it.
The reasoning model we talked about earlier.
Right, so it's got that extra layer of analytical depth now.
So it's got speed, versatility, and now reasoning power. What about pricing?
They have different tiers. ChatGPT Plus is $20 a month.
What do you get with that?
Priority access, Faster response times, you get the new features as they come out.
Okay, so that's for the more casual user. What if you need more power?
Then there's ChatGPT Pro, which is $200 a month.
Wow, so that's for the heavy hitters.
Yeah, you get expanded usage,
Yeah.
higher rate limits.
So there's an option for, a range of budgets.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's talk about another one. Anthropic Sonnet 3.5, better known as Claude. Claude makes Claude different.
Claude is all about ethical AI. Anthropic has really focused on building in those guardrails.
So they're trying to make sure the AI is aligned with human values.
Right. They call it constitutional AI.
That sounds impressive, but how does that actually work?
It's complicated. Basically, they've built in these principles.
Guidelines for how Claude should behave.
Exactly. So it's less likely to give you biased or harmful responses.
So it's not just accurate, it's also ethically sound.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's also really good at reasoning and comprehension.
So analyzing legal documents, summarizing complex information.
All of that. And it has a large context window, 200,000 tokens.
What does that mean?
It means it can handle really long documents without losing track of the context.
So for things like e-discovery or reviewing big contracts.
Yeah, it's a good option for that. Claude Pro is $20 a month.
So same price as ChatGPT Plus.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, we can't talk about AI without talking about Google. What are they doing in the generative AI space?
Google has their own multimodal model called Gemini.
Like GPT-4o, it can handle lots of different types of input, right?
Yeah, text, images, audio, code. It's really good at complex analysis problem solving.
So what makes Gemini stand out?
One thing is its huge context window. Gemini 1.5 Pro can handle up to 2 million tokens at once.
2 million? That's a lot of information.
It is. Think about large-scale e-discovery.
You could analyze millions of documents without the AI losing the thread.
Right. That's a game changer for complex litigation.
Are there any other advantages to using Google's AI tools?
Well, as you might expect, Gemini integrates really well with all of Google's other services.
So if you're already using Google Search, Docs, all that stuff.
It'll fit right in. No need to switch between platforms.
What about the cost?
Gemini Advanced is part of their One AI Premium plan, which is $19.99 a month.
So comparable to the other premium tools. They also have some other AI tools that could be useful for lawyers, right?
Yeah, they've been working on some research and note-taking tools. One is called Notebook LM.
The name suggests it could be good for legal research.
Yeah, it's designed to help you synthesize and summarize complex information.
So you could upload like PDFs, legal briefs.
Yeah, you can upload all sorts of files, Google Docs, websites, even Google Slides, and it'll help you pull out the key takeaways.
Does it provide citations?
Yeah, it gives you inline citations, so you can easily verify the information.
That's important for legal research. You need to be able to trace everything back to the source.
Absolutely. And then there's Advanced with Deep Research.
What does that one do?
It's designed for more autonomous information gathering.
So it can go out and find the information for you.
Yeah, you give it a research question, and it'll formulate a plan, do the searches, compile a report.
Oh, with citations, I'm assuming?
Of course.
Wow, that could save a lot of time.
A ton of time. Especially for emerging legal issues where there isn't a lot of established case law.
And then there's Learn About, right?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's an experimental platform for interactive learning.
So not specifically for a law, but it could be adapted.
Exactly. Imagine modules on different legal topics like torts, contract drafting.
Make learning more engaging.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of Google tools. There's one more I want to mention. Perplexity.
Perplexity. That one's a bit different. It's more of an AI-powered search engine, but it's got conversational capabilities.
So you can ask it questions in natural language?
Right. It's really good for research. It'll find and summarize relevant web pages, academic papers.
News articles.
Yeah. And it always gives you the sources so you can verify the information.
That's crucial.
It is. There's a free tier.
Of course.
And Perplexity Pro is $20 a month.
So lots of options out there.
Lots of options.
It can be overwhelming.
It can be. But the key is to focus on your needs.
Right. What are you trying to achieve?
Exactly. Once you know that, you can start narrowing down the choices.
Okay, so let's recap. We've seen a lot of different generative AI tools. We've got the multimodal powerhouses like ChatGPT 4o and Google Gemini.
Capable of handling all sorts of input.
Complex tasks.
Yeah. And then we've got the ethical AI models, like Claude.
Where they're really focused on building in those safeguards.
Right. Making sure the AI is behaving responsibly.
And we can't forget about the research-focused tools like Notebook LM and Perplexity.
Finding information, summarizing it, citing it.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, But it's exciting.
It is exciting. It feels like we're on the cusp of something big.
We are.
So, it's clear that understanding generative AI is becoming essential for anyone entering the legal profession.
It is. Clients are expecting their lawyers to be tech savvy,
They want efficiency, they want accuracy.
and AI can help with that.
For law students listening, what's the most important advice you can give them?
Legal tech literacy is crucial. It's as important as, your traditional legal skills.
So, understanding what tools are out there, how they work,
Exactly. You don't need to be a programmer.
but you need to understand the potential of this technology.
Right. And the best way to learn is by
Experiment with these platforms, see what they can do.
play around with them. See how they can enhance your learning, your work.
How can law students get practical experience with these tools, before they're working on real cases?
Internships are a great opportunity.
Okay.
A lot of firms are looking for interns who can leverage AI.
So if you can show that you've got those skills,
It can give you a real edge.
and once you're in the workforce, showing that you're proficient in legal tech, that can open doors.
Absolutely. Firms are looking for people who can drive innovation.
So you're positioning yourself as a leader.
Exactly. Someone who's at the forefront of this transformation.
Before we wrap up, let's take a moment to revisit the key takeaways from our deep dive into generative AI for legal services. What are the most important things for our listeners to remember?
We started by talking about the different types of LLMs, proprietary versus open source.
The foundation of a lot of these AI tools.
Right. And then we moved into the different types of generative AI models. Predictive AI, reasoning AI.
Different tools for different tasks.
Right. And we discussed the idea of AI autonomy
Co-pilots versus agents.
and the ethical considerations that come with that.
How much autonomy are we comfortable with? What are the potential risks?
Important questions to consider.
And then we talked about the practical considerations for choosing an AI tool.
Usability, integration, cost, security, privacy.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But it's all important.
And then, of course, we showcase some of the leading tools out there.
ChatGPT 4.0, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity.
Lots of options.
There is.
And finally, we emphasize the opportunities for law students.
Legal tech literacy is essential.
It's the future.
It is. So gain that practical experience, explore these tools, and don't be afraid to embrace the power of AI in law.
It's an exciting time to be entering the legal field. AI is changing everything.
It is. And it's only going to get more exciting.
That's for sure. Well, to our listeners, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries. If you're interested in delving deeper into any of the tools or topics we covered today, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to tailor future deep dives to your interests. Until next time, this is the Deep Dive signing off. So it's clear that understanding generative AI is becoming essential for anyone, going into law these days.
Oh, absolutely. Clients are starting to expect their lawyers to be tech savvy.
They want efficiency, accuracy.
Exactly. And AI can really help with that.
So for law students listening, what's the most important advice you can give them?
I'd say legal tech literacy is crucial. It's as important as those traditional legal skills you learn.
So understanding what tools are out there, how they work, all of that.
Exactly. You don't have to be a programmer or anything.
But you need to understand how this technology can be used.
Right. And the best way to learn is by doing.
So experimenting with the platforms, seeing what they can do.
Yeah, play around with them, see how they can, make your work better, enhance your learning.
How can law students get practical experience with these tools, before they're out there working on real cases?
Internships are a great opportunity for that.
Okay, so firms are looking for interns who have these skills.
A lot of them are, yeah. They want to see how interns can use AI for research, drafting, things like that.
So having those skills on your resume, that can really make you stand out.
Absolutely. And then, once you're working, showing that you're proficient in legal tech can really help you move up. Firms are looking for people who can drive innovation.
So positioning yourself as a leader, as someone who's on top of all the latest tech.
Exactly. Be at the forefront of this whole transformation.
Before we wrap up, let's take a moment to go back over the key takeaways from our deep dive into generative AI for legal services. What are the most important things for our listeners to remember?
We started by talking about the different types of LLMs, right? Proprietary versus open source.
The foundation for a lot of these tools.
Right. And then we talked about the different types of generative AI models.
Yeah.
Predictive AI, reasoning AI.
Different tools for different tasks.
Exactly. We also talked about the idea of AI autonomy, co-pilots versus agents.
And, the ethical considerations that come with that.
How much autonomy are we comfortable giving these systems? What are the potential risks?
Important questions to be asking.
They are. And then, of course, we talked about the practical side of things.
Yeah.
How to choose an AI tool.
Usability, integration, cost, security, privacy, all of that.
It's a lot to think about, but it's all important.
And then we talked about some of the specific tools that are out there.
ChatGPT 4.0, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity. We just scratched the surface, really.
There are so many options.
There are. But the key is to find the right tool for you.
The one that meets your needs.
Exactly.
And finally, we talked about the opportunities for law students in this, rapidly changing landscape.
Legal tech literacy is essential.
It's the future of law.
It is. So, my advice to law students is to embrace this technology. Gain that practical experience. Don't be afraid to experiment. The power of AI in law is huge.
It's a really exciting time to be going into law.
It is. And it's only going to get more exciting.
Well, to our listeners, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries. If you want to go deeper on any of the topics or tools we covered today, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to tailor future deep dives to your interests. Until next time, this is The Deep Dive, signing off.